should be like you, Mel.
Ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Good morning, Cherries fans. It's 8 a.m. It's Friday, and of course, that can only mean one thing: Cherry AM. And as you can see today, Craig and Ollie aren't here. They're currently travelling back today. So myself, I'll be hosting. And of course, I am joined by a very familiar face, someone that you've seen from many a show recently, and including our cherry picking series. It's Malcolm Chilton. Malcolm, how are you doing?
Good morning, Matt. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. And good morning to everyone in the chat. Glad to have you all on board.
Yeah, and
all good, thanks.
Yeah, as you've mentioned that, let's just have a quick look at the chat before we get started. We got Dan, Dan Short. Morning. Good morning to you, Dan. Thanks for joining us. I saw a thing that QE. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, 1 second. I think you've put another comment in. Joe, good morning. Happy Friday to you as well. Thanks for joining us. Nick, good morning. Nice to have you with us as always as well. And yeah, I think this is the comment, Dan. Saw that we've been linked with Davis Kellior Dunn from Barnsley. Yeah, do you know what? I did see something in one of the presses this week linking us to a Barnsley player, and do you know what? I didn't actually read it. So yeah, we'll have to have a look at that. Myself or Malcolm will do a quick little search on that. We do have some transfer links that we'll discuss throughout the show, but that's one that I think I've seen something, but I haven't looked it up. So myself or Malcolm will have a quick look in a second and yeah, see what we can find on that one. But yeah, thanks for bringing that one to the attention. And just while we're on that subject, guys, if anyone's watching, just want to chuck anything in the chat that, you know, want to discuss, or anything that you guys have seen maybe in the press, or just anything topical at all, chuck it on in, and you know, Malcolm and myself can always give an opinion. And of course, in the chat, it's Paul from Oz. Good morning,
Paul.
Hope you're well. Thank you as always for joining us. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for getting involved in the chat. And like I say, anything you want discussed, or you know, anything topical, do chuck it in, and we'll discuss it. Sure, goalkeeper would be sufficient. Yeah, there's a funny goalkeeping, a bit of a funny goalkeeping situation, isn't there? We seem to be blessed with goalkeepers, but yeah, there's a few question marks over a few of them, isn't there? And I know we've discussed slightly recently on the goalkeeper situation, but I've only seen us really linked to the Chelsea goalkeeper recently. Malcolm, have you seen any other links to any other keepers? I know there's always the talk about Kepa, and he's going here, he's going here, or wherever. And I think in an ideal world, a lot of people want to sign Kepa. But the only other goalkeeper I've seen us strongly linked with is, and I forget the keeper's name, but the keeper that's at Chelsea. So I think they've got loads of goalkeepers there, haven't they? By the sounds of things,
They got loads of everybody, haven't they?
that's the name there. Yeah, him. I quite like him, really. I think he's quite good with his feet as well, from what I can remember of seeing him. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens there with the goalkeeping situation. I mean, personally myself, I think I'd love to see Kepa, but who knows if that's going to be possible. I mean, Malcolm, if you were having to pick a first choice goalkeeper now that was going to come into the club, so if we forget the goalkeepers we've already got at the club and involved at the club, who would you sign in an ideal world?
Kepa. he would be my number one, definitely. But who knows what's happening behind the scenes. Shame that Chelsea called him back. Have they got plans for him? Or is it just business? Who knows?
Yeah.
As for other keepers, I really... The one I wanted was the guy who went to Brentford. Keller or what? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a shame. But that was good business by Brentford. You see, snapped him up. Other than that, there's no sort of really standout for me. Obviously, people will continually talk about Travers, etc. So, but no, Kepa's a one for me. See how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. And Dan, you've just literally brought us onto our first talking point.
Yeah.
So excellent. You must be reading my mind. So yeah, we've discussed a little bit of the goalkeepers there. That's going to be a situation that's going to obviously continue throughout the summer until obviously someone's put pen to paper. But yeah, it's something that obviously we will keep an eye on and obviously continue to cover throughout the summer. But yes, our first topic, we've got a range of topics this morning, but our first one that we were going to cover off, Dan, was Alex Scott. So obviously the England under-21s are in competition at the minute, as we well know. Wednesday evening, unfortunately, defeated by the Germans. To be fair, from the first half, watching that, because I was flicking between that game and Dean Howson making his debut for Real Madrid. So I was interested in both of those games and flicking between the two. But from what I could see on the first half, I think fair play, the Germans deserve to be 2-0 up. But yeah, Alex Scott did score in the second half. I think it was around the 74th minute, sometime around there. And they now go on to play Spain tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, which unfortunately I won't be able to catch that one because I'm going to be watching Iron Maiden. So I ain't going to be able to see it. But Malcolm, always good to see a Cherry involved internationally and obviously at competitions like this. He was actually dropped for the second game. I believe it was a tactical decision. But could we see Alex in the side tomorrow night against the Spanish? I think his delivery of a ball from set pieces is very vitally important. Like I've said before, I think maybe last Friday, maybe we discussed it a little bit, the first game. I think he's quite vitally important for England. Do you reckon we're going to see him start tomorrow night?
I think so. In the first game, the midfield, England's midfield, they're solid.
Yeah.
It really surprised me that Alex wasn't playing against the second game. Don't know why, but that's up to Mr. Carsley, isn't it? So great to see him on the score sheet. Obviously, as a Cherry, even more so. Yes, let's go. Spain. Well, we'd have ended up with Italy or Spain anyway, so it's against the Spaniards. You got to beat them all to win it. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And let's go for it. But it's good. It's really good, for teams like at that level to be pitted against the best at that level, and see where you actually stand. Brilliant.
Yeah. One thing that also shocked me on Wednesday evening was that he left Livramento out.
Yeah.
And he is a solid right back. I mean, fantastic at going forward as well. And you can see what he's done at Newcastle this season. I mean, we all know Kieran Trippier is a senior pro, someone who's played at the highest level, and he's managed to keep him at the side at Newcastle. So it's the case that he was resting him and just helping, hoping to scrape through, or what? I mean, it was just a bizarre. I mean, obviously, like you said, only Lee Carsley knows why he does things, but just a thought that was bizarre as well. But even so, I mean, guys watching this, what's your predictions? Is England going to get past the Spanish tomorrow evening? Are we going to see Alex Scott play? Are England, going to win it again? Bit of a slow start, but I think Lee Carsley predicted a bit of a slow start for them anyway. So yeah, give us your views, give us your opinions, pop them in the chat. Just before we move on, we're going to talk about Pathways next, the documentary that's been released in 5 parts by the club. We've touched on it briefly before, but we're just going to give our opinions on not only last night's release, but a point and a view on the whole documentary as a whole. But just before we discuss that one here from Joe. Why do you think the Kerkez deal is taking so long? Well, I think obviously, the Kerkez deal, is in the press every single day, isn't it, Malcolm, as we, both know. I think there's a chain, I think there's a chain. I personally think, obviously I don't know for 100%, but when you look at it, I think, first of all, I think we had to find the replacement, which we've done, and a very exciting replacement as well from the looks of things. So it looks like in terms of someone that's going to step into his shoes is done. But from what I believe, they're trying to complete the deal for the Bayer Leverkusen player, aren't they? Or finishing it up. I think he's flown in for his medical and things like that.
Florian Wirtz, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, and I've also heard as well from a couple of Liverpool fans that they're also having to ship someone else out the door as well. So I don't know if it seems to be a chain. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. If Kerkez doesn't move to Liverpool, I'll be very, very surprised. I think it's just they're all waiting to sort of, cross the T's, dot the I's and all that. And there's a little chain. And as soon as I think, the fees agreed. I think he's agreed with the club, the contract, things like that. I think it is just part of a process. But yeah, unfortunately, I mean, what 2 left backs to have though? Could you imagine both of them competing to start? It'd be some competition for left back. But yeah, I think obviously as soon as we signed, the replacement, I think it was inevitable and just a matter of time before it's completed. So yeah, that's what I think, Joe. I mean, if you find anything else out, please let us know.
Can I just bring something in here? Because you mentioned Kerkez. 6 players for the Young PFA Player of the Year.
Yeah, that is on our topics. We're going to go through that very shortly. Yeah, we are. We've got obviously 2 PFA Young Player of the Year nominations, and we'll just discuss very briefly the 6 candidates. Obviously, 2 from the Cherries, and but yeah, anybody that's thinking who may win that, pop it in the chat and we'll discuss that. But yeah, we are going to cover that, Malcolm. I'm glad you reminded me of that one. So Paul, just quickly, just on the Kerkez thing, reported that they've settled for 40 million, which is disappointing. Yeah, I mean, when you look at it from a business point of view, from what we've signed him, it's decent profit. But yeah, I still value him highly, higher than that. Personally. I would say, I think a fair price would have been between 45 and 50. That's just me.
I actually saw 40 to 45 yesterday. So
yeah. But when you look at what we signed him for and what we've signed his replacement for, that's decent money, isn't it? I mean, years ago, when you think about it, we couldn't raise 40 grand for a player, let alone receiving 40 million for once. So, yeah, no, I do get your point, Paul. Definitely, exactly. Totally get your point. I do think. I think, well, you watch when he goes to Liverpool, his valuation would jump up to probably like 60 million, just like when Dino signed for Real. His valuation jumped up straight to 75 million. So, yeah, but it's business, I suppose, isn't it? Business. But thank you again to everybody in the chat. Keep your comments coming. Pathways. Let's jump onto pathways, Malcolm. Obviously, we've watched all the parts now. It's been a great insight into how an academy works. I mean, it doesn't, it's a documentary that's not just relevant from a Bournemouth fan's perspective, isn't it? It's an interesting documentary to watch to learn how academies work and how academies work towards that grade one status. Give us your thoughts. Give us a summary on what you thought about the documentary as a whole.
Well, first of all, the production is absolutely superb. The insight, obviously, not only with all the lads, but with the training staff, etc. We have to look to see where we've come from and where we're going. Absolutely amazing, and the professionalism. I thought, from the training staff, through ups and downs. There were defeats in there, and how the coaches and the staff behind, rallied them afterwards. No anger, no nothing, just speaking to them like proper human beings and trying to build them up again to go again for the next phase or whatever. But superb. It's unfortunately 5 episodes was not enough, in my opinion. It could have gone on to maybe 8 or 10, but a wonderful insight, and congratulations for the club for putting that out. And I'm sure there'll be football fans around the country that'll say, wow, look at this. Because there are many fans, they don't just look at their own club, they look at others as well. And so superb, brilliant.
I mean, if you look at it from, if you were, say, 16, 17 or that kind of age, and Bournemouth were showing an interest in you, and you watch that documentary and you weren't sure whether you were going to sign for the club, I think that documentary would definitely make your decision for you. Mr. Beasley's in the room. Just before we carry on pathways. Next season, we will have a player up for the Ballon d'Or. Spelling might be off here. Yeah, I think the spelling is a little bit, isn't it an E after the R? But anyway, who cares about spelling? Good morning, Craig. He's saying morning to everyone in the chat. I hope you and Ollie travel back safely. I know you're both traveling back home today. So, but thanks for joining us. There's a lot of things that stood out for me on that documentary. Firstly, I mean, I'll echo what you've said. The documentary itself, I think for me, I'll be very surprised if it doesn't win an award. I think the production of it, the filming of it, just the whole content is brilliant, really. It just covers everything, doesn't it? From, how a player's progression, that's why it's called Pathways, isn't it? Progresses on and into first team football. I think it's going to be interesting. Yeah, they're definitely going for category 1. So few things that stood out for me, apart from that, just how Eddie's philosophy is still all the way through the academy. Which I think is very, very interesting, how everyone's still buying into it, even the current manager. I thought his views during the documentary was, very strong, and he, really believes in that academy system. Sam Matthews, he came through that system. You can see how important of a coach he is, because he's had the experience that the players are going through at that stage. He's an under 16 assistant coach, isn't he? And I just thought he really stood out, the way he spoke in the changing room to the players. You know, you can see he's a decent coach on the training field. So, you know, he really stood out. He's a player that, unfortunately for him, you know, I think he had some, you know, injuries throughout his career, didn't he? You know, but you can really see how he's come in and he's really benefiting those academy players. So I thought he stood out really well. I think I touched on it recently as well. Maybe it was yourself, Malcolm. Might have been last week's Cherry AM. Tom, the under-16s captain, just as you watched more of those episodes, he just really, really stood out as such a mature young man. You know, you look at him, and I thought to myself there, I thought, if I was managing a team, he's the type of guy you want as a captain. He was interviewed. I thought he spoke really, really well. And unfortunately, obviously, he was injured, wasn't he, for the tournament?
Yeah.
But what I loved about that is the inclusion side of that, how, you know, the academy manager and the under-16 manager, and that they included him and had him involved, which I think is very important for a captain anyway. And I thought he spoke well in the changing room, you know, when he was saying, you know, look at last year, you know, how far we've come this year. And, you know, he just seems such a mature guy. But what really stood out was when he was on the sidelines watching it, and one of the coaches, it might have been Sam Matthews actually, asked for his opinion.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Opinion. And you think, you go back 20 years ago, just as a, you know, just plucking a number out, I don't think that would have happened. And for him to say, you know, what do you think? What do you think? And he, you know, he's saying that the way we're playing, we could do with another man up top. You know, we should go 4-4-2.
Yeah.
And I'm watching that, and I thought, you know, that's amazing. Really thought that was amazing. And do you know what? A great guy. Disappointed for him to be injured, but he was still involved. He was still, even though he wasn't leading on the pitch, he was leading in the dressing room. He was leading, you know, he was leading, and he was there. His presence was felt, and I thought that was just, I just thought that, and you can really see that's a way of, you know, because they say in the documentary it's key that they want to develop a captain for for the first team. So it was great to see that bit of inclusion there. Just made a few notes when I was watching it back all last night, because I watched every single one again last night. And then obviously, you know, touching on Sam Matthews, someone who was coming through our academy system, unfortunately, you know, someone who's injured, who's now, you know, retired and is now making his name in the coaching world. You know, you had someone then like Junior Stanislas, who's been through the West Ham Academy, which is, you know, a well-renowned academy, isn't it? He's followed. For me, I see Junior there following in the likes of Sean Cooper and, you know, Tommy Elflick's footsteps, and someone that I think that would become very firmly cemented in that academy, like Alan Connell has. You know, Alan Connell has been involved in it with, you know, for over 10 years, and I think it must be excellent if you're, you know, a youngster in those teams and you've got someone like Junior there on the touchline or coaching you. It must give you a real buzz to learn off someone like that who's played at the top level, who, as a player, I highly rated Junior, and I just think that must really rub off well on the youngsters.
Yeah.
Oh, are you still there, Malk?
I am still here. Yeah, it's
Just
something
frozen.
came up about the gremlins here, I'm afraid.
The gremlins. But yeah, I mean, you know, people like Junior, though, they're very, very important in those kind of academies, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, carry on. Sorry.
No, all I was going to say is from like under-16s right the way through.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's an integral part of the whole club. You know, obviously, right up to the first team and everything. But the ambition they've got, and bringing everybody on board, just like one big family, and they don't leave anybody out. That's the thing. And it's, you know, always an arm around you, always a word to say. And good that the young lads have got the maturity to actually say something. You know, obviously, you know, so, it's a difficult age, isn't it? You know, they're schooling, they're training, they want to go ahead, they want to progress. But there's that age group where you think, oh, shall I say something or not? They don't want to rock the boat or anything. But it's a learning process, isn't it? How do you put your views across? But they're all on board, and now they're all at the training complex, and they see it around them day in, day out. There must be so much stuff that positive that rubs off on them, and I can just see it going up and up. You know, it is a huge leap, crikeys. You know, and you have to be damn good, but the belief is there from you know the early stages, and yeah, I was well impressed, to be honest with you. And it would be obviously, you know, you can touch on Winterburn, you know, that he's you know, got into the first team. Nice gesture that, you know, they had 3 players from the academy that had first team debuts at the end. That just shows the younger lads what is achievable. I mean, obviously, you know, you're not going to have 3 academy players on the same pitch at the same time, generally, but together, anything is possible.
Yeah, obviously a motto, the club's motto that you know they use strongly throughout the academy. The player sacrifices as well that they make, you know, is really, you know, got quite highlighted there. You know, not only are they training the amount of times that they're training, but then they've also got their they've got the education side of it as well, and you know they seem really, you know, really focused on football and education, and you know I just think, and like they were saying, you know, they're preparing the scenario they're creating is preparing them for sort of from under 18s to go into that first team environment. So whether that's with Bournemouth or with other clubs, it just seems that they're all being very set up to whichever level they eventually go on to play at, that they're going to be able to, you know, not understand that first team environment and what it means to be a first team player. So yeah, Craig, just very quickly, Craig's popped in a comment there. Understanding and faith is great. Yeah, totally understand that point. It's a very good point. Paul from Oz, just to let the viewers know, the fans forum, very interesting on YouTube to watch right now. Yeah, it is. Was just going to touch on that very briefly at the end, but yeah, that is available on YouTube now. So yeah, please give that a watch. Very good watch, very informative. I was discussing that with Paul last just yesterday evening. Yesterday evening our time would have been probably morning his time, but yeah, we were talking about that briefly last night. So yeah, thanks for bringing that one up, Paul. Much appreciated. And it's a bit different to a park with Jimmy Quinn and his dog. Yeah.
We say more.
Yeah.
Thanks, Craig.
I like to say, moving swiftly on. So yeah, no, Iriola as well. You know, he was obviously interviewed at various different stages of the documentary, and you could just really see how he feels that is such an important element of the club, the academy, and how he's, you know, he seems kind of fearless, doesn't he, to bring players in from the. Yeah. And obviously he was forced to a little bit earlier on this year. When we had all those injuries and those players stepped up from the academy, and whether they come along to become, you know, long-term Bournemouth players or whether they go on to have a career elsewhere, to have that kind of first team experience at Premier League level is going to, you know, set them up in very good stead for wherever their career takes them, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. And also Frano was in there, you know, putting these points over. They just, I think, as a fan, certainly as a Cherries fan, you see what's actually happening the way we're going forward, and it only brings belief, which is what you must have. And as you pointed out, with Andoni, having the belief and the trust in the young players to bring them in. I know his arm was forced a little bit, but it's the trust there, and they showed up, and
Yeah.
I just think wonderful.
Yeah, and when we're talking about that, Ben Winterburn, I thought they made a very good point about Ben there. He's come into the first team setup, hasn't he? And he's made a couple of starts as well, I think, in the cups. And they were saying that because they're implementing into the academy the same, they try to put as much of the first team philosophy into the academy as well. When he stepped up and against Fulham, to do that high press, he was completely, it wasn't completely alien to him, because that's what they're doing in the academy. And he's been someone that's been, very impressive. And I think, and I do hope for him as well. I think that he will become part of, a regular member of that first team. I think going forward, I've been quite impressed with him, and I just think all the attitudes of the players is fantastic. And a really worthwhile documentary. If you haven't watched it yet, and you're watching this now, do check it out. And yeah, anybody else got any views on it? Pop it in the comments. But yeah, that's Pathways. Here we go. Paul, maybe there's a George Best lurking in there somewhere. Yeah, I mean, there's some talent there. There is some talent there. Even if any of the players are, like some of them, I think, have been released this summer, there's definitely going to be takers out there that are going to want to take them on trial, or take them on trial, or you can see a lot of those players are going to play at some level of football in this country. You can see that. But yeah, who knows, Paul? There might well be the next George Best there. And Ollie's in the chat as well. Thanks for the rundown. Thanks for joining us, Ollie. Still a bit more to chat about on this Cherry AM. Obviously, we've got the PFA young players, haven't we, Malcolm?
Yeah.
Both Dino and Kerkez, they're up against the likes of Liam Delap, Miles Lewis Skelly. I think he's the young Arsenal player. Morgan Rogers, who a lot of Cherries fans will remember his name. He came on loan from Man City during Scott Parker's era. And a player that we never really got to see the best of, but someone who's become absolutely electric at Villa and has been very, very key to their successful season. So to be fair, to see his name in there, he's also broken to the England squad as well, hasn't he? So to see his name in there isn't surprising. A few tough names. Good to see two Bournemouth players in there for a start. It's great to see that. And when you see the names of Dean Housen and Milos Kerkez being nominated, it's great to see him in there, but you can't say you're surprised, can you, after the season they had?
No. I think we've been, the last season, so many young players throughout the Premier League, that have stepped up, absolutely brilliant, and it's just one encouragement or an incentive for younger academy players. If they watch the amount of football that probably the likes of you and I do, and see these young guys really turn it on week in, week out. It's a shame there's only 6 there. Really, I suppose you could run a list of maybe up to 10 young players in the Premier League who have really stood out. I just think it's so refreshing. It really is. It's good. Obviously for Bournemouth, it's excellent, and it's no surprise, obviously, that Dino and Milos are up there. Yeah. Who's going to take it? Who knows? I mean, if you want out of the 6, you must mention Nuanar. How do you pronounce it?
Oh, is it
Nwaneri?
Yeah.
Nwaneri, yeah, from Arsenal. If you have to pick the one out of the 6, who would you pick?
It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one.
Without being biased, and that is it is a tough call.
Yeah, I mean, Liam Delap had a great season, didn't he, for Ipswich?
Yeah.
And obviously that's paid dividends for him with his move to Chelsea. Miles Lewis-Skelly, he's also been selected for England as well.
Yeah.
So, he's obviously impressed Thomas Tuchel. Morgan Rogers, like I just said, we didn't see the best of him at Bournemouth, but he's become, a fantastic player and a massive asset for Villa. And then you've got Dino and Kerkez, and you kind of think, well, how do you pick between them two, even as a Bournemouth fan? But, I mean, I think for me, it's... If I was voting, obviously, I'm going to vote for one of the Bournemouth two, but I think Dean Howson gets my vote. I love Kerkez, and like I said many times before, I love Kerkez. I just think, and the way he played against the side he played against the other night for Real Madrid, I forget the side's name. He's there coming forward with the ball. I mean, he's playing so far at the pitch. There's a few balls he delivered into the box. I mean, one towards the end of the game that they could have got the winner from. Beautiful delivery. I just think he's such a good defender on the ball. I love defenders that can play out from the back. Centre backs. I mean, like someone like Rio Ferdinand was always very good at it. I mean, I think Dean Howson's 100 times better than what Rio was with the ball at his feet. I just think that. Maybe I'm mad. If I'm mad, put it in the comments. But I think for me, Dino would get my vote. But yeah, if you're looking at it from a generic perspective, and say you're one on the panel that vote, or I forget how. I think is this the one the players all vote for? It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's a tricky one because they've all had really good seasons. I mean, every player that's listed there has had really, really good seasons. So, to be fair, I mean, it's one of those where you can say they're all winners. Really, because they've all had brilliant seasons. So, comment here quickly from Joe. PSG seems super interested in, we know. Zabani, or Zaba for short, getting slightly concerned about our defence. Real shame to be losing so many. Do you think this will sway more players to look elsewhere? Yeah, it's an interesting comment, that, Malcolm, isn't it? I think this is the problem with this time of year, isn't it? There's just so many rumours. You're seeing it in the press every day, and I mean, we're linked to a couple of good centre backs from what I've seen, and I think we've discussed it on Cherry M at various different times. I think Ollie's covered some of them. Do we think it's going to sway more players to look elsewhere? I think the thing is, as soon as a player is interest is shown by a club, it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a difficult one.
Sorry, Matt.
No, you carry on.
I don't think it'll sway other players to look elsewhere.
Right.
My opinion. There were, at the end of the season, and you had to look, and obviously we knew Dino was going, and then you have to look at the standout players that we've got and likelihood of them leaving. That is not the complete starting 11. So obviously you need replacements in the door, which obviously with Kerkez we've done already. You hit on centre backs. Yeah, there's something going on behind the scenes, trying to get others in. Who else is likely to go? So even if Spani goes, obviously goalkeeper we talked about. As to the rest, I can't see any reason for them wanting to leave. They know the setup, they know the process that we're doing, the project, and that's all part of it. So they've all bought into it, and they want to be part of it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be part of that process and that project, then obviously you're going to look elsewhere. So it's having the belief, and obviously who's your trainer. They work their socks off for Andoni, and I'm sure he gives everything back. That he possibly can. So you will have one or two, but certainly not. I wouldn't say it would actually sway players, because it's, if you're good enough to step up, go to a bigger club, then they've earned that right. They've been in the shop window long enough, and the big clubs will pick them up sooner or later. The business thing is actually tie them down for maybe a year or two longer if you can when they come in the door. So yeah, we were blessed last season, I'm afraid, with so many top players all hitting the ground running and performing to such a brilliant level.
Yeah.
And those that do go, just wish them luck. It's not as though they said, "Oh, I've had enough of Bournemouth. I want out of here." They've earned the right to move on, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. We've got plenty of weeks yet before transfer window closes. So, yeah, as we've said before, trust the process.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I totally understand your point there, Joe. Being concerned and losing so many. We don't like losing players, but yeah, trust the process. I think is probably the right term. And I just always say, look at the recruitment's track record. We thought it was the end of the world when Dom left, but look who they had up their sleeve, and look who they brought in.
Yeah.
Someone who's, really different to Dom and really exciting, but has fitted in. And then, I know he hasn't scored as many goals as Dom did, but goals are coming from elsewhere, and he's playing a vital part in those goals as well. So trust the process. I mean, the names that we're linked to, I mean, I've seen this morning, Mark Gay from Crystal Palace. Can't see that one. So it's amazing, like what players get linked to what clubs, and it's such a crazy time of year. But yeah, no, I do understand your point there, Joe. It's well valid. Paul, if you look back 12 months, who would have predicted 3 players, possibly 150 million? Well, this is it. Yeah. Look at the money. When you look at what we signed the players for. I mean, I know Semenyo's mentioned a lot. What was he? 10 million, I think he wasn't he, from Bristol City, somewhere around that region. And now they're talking 50, 60 million. And so, yeah, you're right there, Paul. I mean, it's decent money. And look at the Dom deal. I think they came in with a cheeky offer, didn't they? And straight away, it was refused, and Bournemouth got what they felt was the right offer. So, it's all about the business side of things, isn't it? On that one, Joe. Yeah, we can get 2 of each with the money we are making. That's it, exactly. So they invest the money smartly. So obviously, Dom went for 65 million. We bring in Alvin Nielsen for 40 million. So, yeah, let's just trust it. Let's trust it. Frano, Pinto, all those guys that oversee that side of things at the club. Have followed on from someone like Richard Hughes, who did a great job for us, and moved on to Liverpool last season, rightly so. Because he's done a great job at Bournemouth. And Frano and Pinto have stepped in and carrying on that trend. So, yeah, like Malcolm has just said, trust the process, I think, and let's see what happens. Let's see who they bring in. But just while we're touching on transfers before we round up, there's some West Ham links, isn't there, Malcolm? We've seen quite a bit of talk about Tavernier being linked to West Ham. I've seen that over the last sort of couple of months, his name being mentioned by West Ham and a couple of other clubs. And of course, Hamid Traore, who was brought in during Gary O'Neill's era at the club. It's been out on loan for the majority of a couple of seasons, really, hasn't he? I know he spent a bit of time, I think, at Napoli, and then last year he spent a bit of time in France and had a fairly decent season out there. What do you make of these links? Let's start with Tab firstly. Tavernier.
Don't believe it. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think it's just a rumor. Maybe people trying to get clicks online. That's just my opinion. But I can't see Tav moving on. I know on the fan base there is, he's probably not everybody's favourite player, fair to say. But, he's an integral part of the squad. Why should we let him go?
Yeah, no, totally agree with you, Malcolm, on that one. I think he's very versatile as well. Can play out wide, can play in behind the forward. He's even played deeper before as well.
Yeah.
So, he's a player I do rate, highly. I think he's an asset as well, as a starter or someone to bring off the bench to change a game. So, yeah, I don't think I can see it. I don't think West Ham, but Toure, decent player there. There's a really decent player there, and I like him, but I don't think it's worked out for us. I think we discussed this on our player rating show we did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worked out for him here, unfortunately. But West Ham, could you see him fitting in at West Ham? I mean, Potter's obviously looking to have, make his mark on that side now. Is that someone that you could see Graham Potter bringing in to sort of, revitalise West Ham?
Yeah, funny club, aren't they, West Ham? You expect more from them, but I don't know. Yeah, why not? It could probably suit both parties, to be honest with you. And at what price? I don't know if it's 15 million or whatever the price is they're talking about. But if he's got the chance to be involved and playing first team football, then he'd be silly not to want to go. Or Bournemouth loan him out again somewhere, or even I don't know. It's like you said, he's had a decent spell in France. So where does it go? Where does it go? And how many from the older players, like the pre-Andoni players, if you like, that may be still around the club? Does Andoni want to keep them all? It's big business, isn't it?
Yeah, the only thing is when you continue to loan players out, and I think he signed quite a long deal as well, but I think when you continue to loan players out, you do run that risk of maybe losing them for nothing. And sometimes is it worth accepting a bit of money to not lose them for nothing? Obviously, that's for the likes of Frano and Iriola to decide on those kind of things, isn't it? But
it is business, isn't it? So at the end of the day, you don't want to be losing money on players. That is,
yeah. No, totally.
Even if you don't make huge profits, it doesn't matter. If you can make a profit, then it's good.
No, I get that. Totally get that. Just before we wrap up then, guys, again, thank you for everyone for joining us today. Thank you for your comments in the chat. One more player that I've seen us linked to this morning, who I don't know much about, but his name is Finn Azaz. I think that's how you pronounce it. If I've pronounced it wrong, I do apologise. He's a Middlesbrough player. He scored 12 goals and created 11 assists last year. He's a 24-year-old playmaker with caps for Ireland. He's got 7 caps, I think, and a goal for Ireland. Contracted at Middlesbrough to 2028, but Palace and Leeds are also said to be interested. From the little bit of research done on him this morning, he is said to be linked also to Bournemouth, but then, we know what this time of year is like. Does sound like a bit of an exciting player and a good age. He's probably going to come into his peak. Someone like that fit into the squad, Malcolm? I think it would need probably a couple to exit to maybe bring him in. But from his stats sounds quite exciting.
Wait and see, I guess. It's nice to be linked with players. It gives the fans an interest. They think, oh, come on, let's scrabble around the internet and see what we can find out about them, or maybe chat with fans from the other clubs. I don't know. I really don't know. You sort of put me on the spot because obviously I hadn't heard of anything until sort of pre-show.
Yeah,
you mentioned it. So I think over the next couple of weeks we'll see certainly a lot more movement in the transfer market.
Yes.
It's a question of as fans to be patient. I see Paul has put a comment in the chat there, so it's we are the last to know with football, but I don't know. I think maybe over the next 2 to 3 weeks should be very interesting to see where we're going.
Yeah.
Once deals are done, players are out the door. We mentioned obviously with Kerkez deal. Once that's signed and sealed and dusted, then you just push that one out of the way and then bring on the next, whether it's an incoming or an outgoing player, whatever. And Doug mentioned yesterday on the chat, in the chat about the Kerkez deal. He said he was waiting for the Wirtz deal to be finished with Liverpool before, so it's good inside knowledge. Yeah. Good knowledge to have. You can't rush these things. So I'm staying positive, Matt.
That's
it. It's all good. It's all good. Seriously.
It's all good. Stay positive. Trust in the process, like you've said a couple of times during this. And I mean, it's been a bit of a longer one today, guys. It was quite a bit discussed, and a few others chipped in with a few bits there, didn't they, Malcolm? But all in all, been a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, and I wish everybody a great weekend.
Yes.
See you all again whenever, and and to you, Matt, obviously.
Yeah. No. Cheers, Paul. Your support is always
thanks,
very
Paul.
much appreciated.
Have a good sleep.
Yes. Yeah. Just a quick one for Mr. Beasley before we go. Okay. It's been announced by Sky Sports Germany that the Kerkez deal is almost done. I did read a report last night saying that it's going to be done within the next week. So it looks like it's quite imminent. But like we say, we always know it was going to happen, so we can't be surprised by it, especially when you sign a replacement. Up the cherries, lads. Have a good one. And Joe, again, thanks for joining us. It's much appreciated. And like Malcolm said, hope everybody has a great weekend in the chat. Mr. Beasley just broke when on air, so it's looking like it's almost there. We're not surprised, are we? So I think it's one of those sagas, isn't it, that's dragging on now, that you just want to have it done and move on. I think it's just it's going to happen. We all know it's going to happen, and unfortunately it's just dragging on. So let's hope Sky Sports News Germany are right and that it's almost done, because then it ends that saga.
On in a minute.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, but yes, a bit of a longer one today. Craig and Ollie will be back on Monday for more Cherry AM, and obviously stick with the channel over the summer. We've got all sorts of different things coming up over the summer and right into next season. So, Malcolm, been a pleasure as always, and I'm sure I'll speak to you soon. But
certainly will.
Until the next time, guys, up the cherries.
Yeah, up the cherries. Bye.
TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
I should be like you, Mel.